it to a lot of people, captains especially captains, because they see this fish a lot more, so they have a better eye, and they've all said at least 180. And I remember being in the water, and I wasn't, I'm not saying I have like these long arms, but I remember not being able to wrap my arm around, like I couldn't even get down to the belly.
Wow.
And that's a big fish.
That's a really big fish.
And that's me having my hand on his jaw and trying to turn him over to release him, and I could not get my left arm down to the belly. I just couldn't turn him.
This is the Tom Rowland Podcast. Fascinating stories to amaze, encourage, and inspire you in fishing, fitness, and the outdoors. And we're brought to you by Black Rifle Coffee. I started this podcast as a way to connect with my friends, people that I admire and respect, and you. It has been a learning journey that's made me a better person, a better fisherman, a better father, and a better athlete. I'm so happy that you're on this journey with me, and I'd love to hear from you with show suggestions, guest suggestions, or questions. The best way to get a hold of me is through text. You can text 305-930-7346 for the fastest response, but if you prefer to email, you can send that to podcast@saltwaterexperience.com. That's a dedicated email address just for the show. If you like this show, you can show your support by posting about it on social media and tagging me. Text the link to a couple of friends that may also enjoy it, and subscribe and leave a 5-star review if you feel like I've earned it. The website is tomrowlandpodcast.com, and that is where everything lives. All past shows, you can go and listen to any show. You can look up all the different shows that we've done, both the How To Tuesdays, the full links, and the Physical Fridays. They all live on tomrowlandpodcast.com. And the social media is Tom_Rowland, ROWLAND, on Instagram, or you can go to our big account, Saltwater_experience. I hope to hear from you soon. So now, let's get on to today's show.
I'm Chris Fishes, and I'm on the Tom Rowland Podcast.
Chris, what's going on, man?
What's up?
I'm doing good. I'm glad to have you on. I've been checking you out on social media. Got some pretty cool stuff going on.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. So you do a lot of surf fishing, right?
Yeah.
Surf fishing and just, I mean, you call it surf fishing, but it could be, land based stuff.
Surf casting, for the most part. Yeah.
Yeah. So where are you located?
I'm in Miami.
Okay.
And I live more like on the outskirts, but not. I'm nowhere near the beach.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how you know it's dedication when you're driving way out there on the coast.
Yeah.
And putting in the effort.
Yeah. So how'd you get started doing this?
Well, first I started doing freshwater, but the saltwater just. Watching Tarpon and seeing how smart they can be, it just kind of tested me. How far can I go with them?
Where was the first place that you encountered a tarpon?
The Keys.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, the Florida Keys. Yeah, I was with my dad, 6 years old, and there's a bridge, just on the bridge, and I was like, "Wow, this is a pretty big fish. Let me see what I can. How am I gonna figure this out?" And now at 16 years old is when I really started dedicating myself to tarpon and surf casting, just as it is. It just woke me up, and I was like, this is, I want to master this. I want to get it as good as possible. And, I want to be able to land a big fish from land.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that's a very challenging thing to do. Extremely challenging, really. What was it with the first encounter you had with a tarpon when you were with your dad? Did you land the fish, or did it spool you, or like what? What was that?
I didn't even know what it was. I didn't know what it was until my dad just jumped. He hooked one, and then it just jumped. And then we were like kind of like by a marina, And then the closest bait shop was right there, and so I ran over there and I was like, what's that silverfish? And it's like green on top. They're like, oh yeah, that's a tarpon. And I'm like, how do I catch one? My dad was just there on the side of the bridge, just decorating his rigs, like a chicken rig, just putting squid and ballyhoo and shrimp all over the place, and he was hooking more fish than I was. But I definitely wanted to get to the point where I can just figure out the best way to land them from land. I mean, I figured it was a big fish, so it's impossible to get them from land at a young age.
So what does that progression look like for you?
Now, I feel like I've I'm not like a captain where I'm catching 100 a year, 200 a year, putting clients on. I'm more like, I always wanted to get to the point where I can just look at the moon, look at the tide, and just show up. I'm gonna at least hook one, and then just leave. I wanted to get to that point, and I feel like I'm about 75-80% to that point. I have logs, like literally logs written down of the moon and the tide, and my last 4 big tarpon from the jetty, from the beach, has been based off of what I've written down. So I feel like I've gone really close to where I want to be. In the surf casting world.
Yeah. And so between the ages of 6 and 16, when you get a driver's license and you can kind of do things on your own terms, what was your fishing like then? Was your dad taking you all the time, or did you have anybody else that was taking you fishing, or what did that look like?
Yeah. Well, I started really driving around and chasing after them when I was 18. I'd say between 16 and 8, until I got my license. I was bouncing around with my friends and trying to figure out as much as I could, riding along with them. But as soon as I got my license, I was just at every possible inlet and jetty and bridge trying to figure out their feeding times and the moon, how are they feeding on certain moons. And now I'm 23. I'm gonna be 24 soon. So I feel like I've gone pretty far. There's always progression. There's always room to grow and learn. There's always you can't master one thing always, but you can get as far as you can, as you allow yourself to. And I feel like even now I'm kind of comfortable. Not where I want to be, where I can just show up like, okay, yeah, they're going to bite tonight. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to for sure hook one. Even though the times that I have, my confidence has been almost at 100, because I'm like, there's been times I've walked up to the inlet. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to hook 100 plus, 150 plus pound tarpon within the first 20 casts. And it's been like that the last handful of times. So, I feel like I'm getting to where, slowly but surely, I'm getting to where I want to be.
That's awesome. And so, what do you think the biggest challenges have been, as far as like, that's a big goal, to like want to land tarpon from the jetty or from the beach or from a bridge. And there's tons of people that listen to this podcast that are bridge fishermen. One of the more popular ones that we ever did was with Chris Pasquale, and he was talking about bridge fishing and got into pretty good detail about how he kind of forecasts where the bite's going to be and everything like that. And what do you think the biggest challenges are for somebody that wants to land a tarpon from land?
That's a good question. There's obviously so many people target tarpon. So everyone fishes for them in their own way, and they're strong about their opinion and the way they target them. So I'd have to say my personal view, targeting them is definitely having patience for the fish. It is a fish that you want to release safely, so you don't want to have you don't want to be too excessive with your gear and how you're landing them. Having your preference of gear is important. I use like extremely light tackle, just so I can control the fish more.
When you're talking about bridge fishing and jetty fishing for tarpon, what would you consider extremely light tackle? Like what's your rig that your go-to rig?
So getting to that, I actually stopped bridge fishing because I was just breaking so much of my tackle, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I feel like I was harming a lot more of the fish, and myself. To be honest with you.
In what way? Like landing them or hooking them and leaving tackle in them, or what?
Yeah, landing them for sure. Stressing out the fish a lot more. It was just jumping more than the fish had to, and it was happening a lot. And this was me at a young age trying to figure it out. So I stopped that. I stopped doing that years ago. Until I realized that jetty fishing is so much. It's a lot safer for you and the fish. You're not beating yourself up. You have plenty of time to fight the fish. You can plan yourself. Where you're gonna land the fish, how you're gonna land it. You have plenty of room and time. Depending on where you're fishing, obviously. But getting to the tackle, yeah, I use really light tackle because I feel like having control of the fish is gives you a bigger advantage than having power over the fish, if that makes any sense. So in other words, having a broomstick of a rod and just a giant reel doesn't always mean that you're gonna land the fish. What if you have too much strength and too much power over the fish, and you're like, yeah, you're horsing the fish. You're putting too much pressure on the hook. That you don't even know. You don't know how much pressure you're putting on the hook yourself.
Right. A lot of times the hook is the weak link. I mean, that's it, when you're really trying to put pressure on a fish and you're using heavy line and heavy leader. Usually it's the hook that gives way, in my experience. But fishing from land is a very, very different deal than fishing from a boat. I mean, there are a lot of advantages to the boat, and that's why I'm very interested in like what tackle you're using when you're land fishing. So what rod do you like to use when you're talking about ultralight tackle for this type of fishing? I'm not sure that correlates to what I might consider ultralight tackle in a boat. So like what are you using?
So it's a St. Croix Surf Legends rod. It's a 12 to 25 pound rod. So it is light tackle for me or for a surf fisherman. A lot of the captains will use a fly rod. I mean, I feel like that's just insane. I think that's pretty impressive too, to be able to land 150 pound fish with such light tippet. I think that's pretty impressive, and I think that's really that's probably a goal of mine for sure. But for a surf fisherman, I think it's different because you have limited room in a way, because you're on land. You can't really chase after the fish.
Yes.
When you're fly fishing for them, you can chase after the fish and you take your time. But from a jetty, that is light tackle. You want to try to turn them as best as you can.
How much capacity do you want, and what line are you fishing?
I'm using 40 pound braid, and the rod's it's a 9-foot rod. So it's not like I'm casting. I prefer a 10 or 11 foot for sure. 9 foot is actually probably really small for someone who calls himself a surf fisherman. But yeah, I'm using an advanced stall, of course, because they're just as indestructible. You can pretty much swim with those reels. They're great reels. But yeah, it's a 150 size Van stall with 40 pound braid, and it's a 9-foot rod, so it's pretty light. You hold it, it weighs almost nothing, but you just have so much control over the fish when they're jumping. When you set the hook, I feel like you feel it more. You kind of have an idea of how the fish ate it. I feel like I sound crazy sometimes when I say that. But yeah,
not really. I mean, you have you're fishing braid. You got a very good connection to the fish. And then what are you using? Mostly lures?
Yeah, actually, so I brought one of these just to show you.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, I saw a bunch of those on your Instagram that you're using those. I mean, you're using mostly jigs like that?
Yeah, so this is an aspirin head. It's a 9.0. It's a 9.0 black knuckle hook. And there's no jig out there that is this strong, this best of quality. I mean, I can't explain. I'm not saying I'm the strongest guy, but I put some insane pressure on tarpon and trying to turn them, and I've never had one of these hooks fail on me. This is actually like a cobia jig too.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty jig. Good. There's nothing. I can't say anything bad about this jig. I've never had an issue with it.
How do you like to fish those jigs from the jetty? Like fast or slow or on the bottom, or how are you doing it? Because tarpon eat everywhere,
Yep. So that's a good question. So I try to use all the water. I try to fluctuate with all the, go down the water column, sweep the top, sweep the middle, definitely sweep the bottom. My biggest one was close to 200, and he ate bottom.
Really? You caught? Yeah. Your biggest fish is close to 200 pounds from land.
Yeah.
On a jig.
Yeah. I remember.
That's impressive, man. That's really impressive.
Yeah, I've showed it to a lot. Obviously, I can't weigh the fish.
Right.
Obviously not. But I showed it to a lot of people, captains especially captains, because they see this fish a lot more. So they have a better eye, and they've all said at least 180. And I remember being in the water, and I wasn't. I'm not saying I have like these long arms, but I remember not being able to wrap my arm around, like I couldn't even get down to the belly.
Wow.
And that's a big fish.
That's a really big fish.
And that's me having my hand on his jaw and trying to turn him over to release him, and I could not get my left arm down to the belly. I just couldn't turn him. So that
Do you fish? You fish primarily jigs? Are there other lures that you like, or almost always jigs?
Yeah, I like using swim baits, line through swim baits, particularly because you land more fish. With the bait sliding up the line, the fish doesn't have the advantage to spit it out.
And when you do that, are you using a treble hook or a J hook on the back?
J hook.
Okay.
J hook for sure. Yeah, treble hooks. I have bad luck with them, straighten them out a lot.
Right.
And I don't really worry too much about the fish swallowing it, because most of the time you have such a. I mean, I'm not saying I have like the fastest reaction, but once you just feel that. Once they hit it, you just immediate, so they don't get the chance to swallow. They've never swallowed one of these, and this is, if you really think about it, it's just a jig head.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I've never had one swallow one. So, but with a swim bait for sure, I've landed more on jig. I gotta be honest, I've landed more on jig. Probably landed maybe over 100 on a swim bait.
Wow.
But most of them have been on jigs. I just feel like I get a better hook set. And the cool thing is when you're fighting them and and when they jump, you just see the jig curl up right over their lip. And that's when you're going to land them for sure.
Right. Yeah.
That's the best part, right? When you hook them on the top of the lip and it's just like curled up and it's just sitting right on the top of their lip, just like that.
Yeah. You don't have any, there's no chance of the leader rubbing through or wearing through. Yeah.
That's the best part.
Yeah, that's cool, man. And so I saw you fishing with my friend Mike Coonahan. No donuts here. He's a avid surf fisherman and hardcore dude all around. What'd you think about him?
Yeah, Mike's super cool. We've been talking for a long time on Instagram, a really long time. He's been trying to get down here for a while, so we could fish for tarpon. But he finally was able to get down. He's working with First Form, his workout supplement company.
Yeah.
So they came down to film, and he hit me up right away. He's like, "Hey, let's go hit the jetty." I wanted him to get on some tarpon, but there was no current. It was a big moon. A lot of the times the big moon's kind of at night, kind of slows down the current. And so there was no tarpon that night. So I just started throwing out the popper, and I was hooking black tips left and right.
Really? Nice.
Yeah.
Do you find that the conditions, like if they're not good for tarpon, they are good for the black tips, or like what do you think about the conditions, or when you're having the best tarpon fishing, you're also hooking a lot of black tips?
It's weird because for example, that night there was no tarpon around, but there was black tips around on a big moon, But then there's been times, especially this time of the year, where the tarpon and the black tips are just, I mean, it's just
Swarming.
a shit show.
Yeah. So what do you attribute that to? Bait? Like that's where the bait is, and that's where both of those fish are, or like or is it tide or current, or what do you think is?
The bait, obviously, I can't tell too much unless I see them blowing up on it. But a lot of the times when it is like that and it is blowing up, it's just a good moon and good current. That's like the main thing. That's the main thing.
Mm-hmm.
Once they find a good spot to sit in, they'll sit on it for about an hour.
Wow.
The tarpon, especially the black tips, they just roam around. But the tarpon, they'll sit in one spot for about an hour.
And so that's what you got your logbooks full of, are those conditions and those spots that you've seen that and that you feel like you can replicate it.
Yeah. Well, the stuff like I'll try to draw out the spot, and I'll kind of try to draw out the way the current's going, and then I'll draw like, okay, the fish are sitting right here. They always sit right here. I just draw it out because just for future preferences, like what if I forget or whatever. But like right now, obviously, I know if I go to the spot, okay, they're sitting right here. They always sit right here. They always bite right here. They sit right off the current, right on this very spot, and they hit. Obviously, on the best nights, they're always gonna sit there, and it's every time. You put your time into one spot, you're gonna get it down pat.
Now, what about the other anglers out there? Do you see a lot, or is it have it to yourself, or what? What do you got?
Yeah, I do bump into sometimes I do. They don't, and I don't like to look down on them until they get cocky. Anyone can hook a fish. Let's be real. Anyone can go and throw a jig for about an hour or two and hook on the right night, on the right tide, on the right moon. Anyone can hook a big fish, but now, can you land them? Can you turn the fish? Do you know what your next step is? Do you know the times to put pressure on the fish? Are you thinking ahead?
Out of all those things, what do you think was the hardest thing for you to kind of get figured out?
Timing.
On finding them? On finding the fish, or on what kind of timing?
Fighting the fish.
Fighting the fish. Okay.
Yeah. Finding the fish, that took a lot of time. I'd say, definitely that took a couple years too. But if it came down to fighting the fish, timing is a huge factor. And that's with a lot of the jetties too.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of jetties on the East Coast where you have to, if you want to beach them, you have to turn them. And timing is such a huge factor in that, because you can't just sit in the middle of the jetty, horse them in, and then decide you want to walk them, 100, 80 yards to the beach,
mm-hmm.
Or around the rocks, around the jetty. You can't do that. You're gonna kill the fish. So timing has a lot to do with it. So the way I do it is, just pretty much slowly walk them. The fish is still 100 yards out, 80 yards out. Okay, let me get closer, turn them. Even though he's 80 yards out, you can still turn him. You're pretty much walking the fish until you get to the point where you want to beach him,
mm-hmm.
and then the fish is fine.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of people there's a lot of things, a lot of the times that people don't get that.
Do you have spots where you could hook a lot of fish, but they're just you're never gonna land them, like
Oh, yeah.
and you choose not to fish there?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of spots.
Do you think a lot of anglers are thinking that far ahead, or do you think they get out there and hook them and have to learn the hard way? I'm never going to land this fish.
Yeah, it's funny that you asked that, because I've realized that recently too. Because when I was young, that was, at 16 years old, 17 years old, I was hooking tarpon left and right. Like, I mean, I could have hooked 50 fish in one night and jumped 50 fish and maybe land one or two, and it was just so hard for me. And then until I learned, and now now it's like, okay, now I can still go to those spots and hook 50 fish, but I'm gonna end up hurting the fish and I'm gonna hurt myself, and I'm not, I don't care, you know. I don't want to get, I don't need to get to that point. I don't need to do that again. I'm not desperate.
Right.
I don't have to do that. And a lot of the kids now that are just getting into fishing, they've only been fishing for 8 months to a year or a year and a half. They're doing that, but they're not. A lot of them are not thinking that far ahead. Where it's like, why don't you just put in the time and figure it out and get to the point where you don't need to go to the spot where there's a million fish, you know? And I wanted to get to that point. I got to that point quick, and I realized that I don't need to do that. You know, I just need to figure it out, and I can go whenever I want, and not have to stress myself out or stress out the fish. So that needs to be more talked about too.
Yeah, I mean that was like old school, super old school trout fishing. I remember, that's what a lot of the anglers would tell you. They're like, look, it's not about finding the fish or hooking the fish. It's about where you're going to land the fish, because you'd have rapids down below you or something like that, and then you hook a trout and it shoots down the rapids, and it'd break you off, or it takes your whole fly line out or whatever. And so that's what it was always like. You're only going to fish for a fish where you can land them. And if that's important to you, I mean, I guess how often are they throwing the hook on that jig like that? Do you get a lot of them that just jump off? Like, I mean, we certainly do in the boat. No matter what we're using. So you are, and we could actually, like on a worm hatch or something like that, you can fish barbless, and you can fish with dull hooks, and you can do stuff like that to where you're going to hook a lot of fish. You're going to jump them, and you don't have to land them. Like, they're just going to get off. I mean, do you do that when you're in some of these spots where it's possible to hook a lot of fish, so you adjust your tackle to where you are not going to land very many, or you try not to land any?
I try not to. The way I fish, and I get made fun of a lot too, because I'm so simple and I'm so lazy. I'm more of like, I just want to hook one fish, and I just want to land one fish, and then I want to go home. I'm more like that.
That's simple and lazy?
Yeah.
And what time of the night are you normally doing this simple, lazy fishing?
Well, it all depends. I obviously, the right tide could start at 8:30, or the right tide could start at 1, 2 in the morning.
Right. Right.
But,
so you'll go whenever.
But that's something you just have to figure it out. You have to put in the time. There's times I've slept out. I've literally slept next to a trash can once, just waiting for the tide to change, because I swore in my gut that it was perfect weather, perfect moon, perfect tide. Like, the fish have to be here. They're gonna be here. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait for the next tide, and I'll sleep it off for 3-4 hours. Just waiting and just casting. And then there's times that I'll do that, and I don't get hit. You know. But
do you have any success in the daytime on these same spots?
I have fished them a couple times in the daytime. No luck. I feel like I don't put the same effort in the daytime as I do in the nighttime.
Does that fit your personality? Are you a night person?
Yeah, definitely.
Are you?
Definitely. Yeah, I want to start. Obviously I caught the black tip the other day not too long ago with Mike. I wanna kind of not shy away from tarpon, but just try new things. I've been chasing tarpon for so long. I've caught so many. Since I was 16, I've caught so many. It's like, now I wanna, like, okay, what else can I do?
So what's exciting for you now? Like, what are you, when you're thinking about like that? Like, what are the first couple of things that you think about that you'd like to do?
Well, the black tips on top water. That's just it. It gets your blood pumping.
Yeah.
And when it's just the top water, and then all of a sudden black tip just goes flying 10 feet out, 10 feet out the water. and just flipping with the popper. You know, that's the stuff that gets the blood pumping. Even if you don't land them, it's like you got to see that.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah,
And
that's
at
cool.
nighttime, I feel like it's the coolest, especially when you have like the whole spot to yourself. You know, it's just, you know, it's a full moon. You know, it's calm. You know, you have the moon shining in the water. Like the whole beach is just lit up, and then all you see is the silhouette of a black tip just spinning, just flipping with your popper. I think that's like, you know, National Geographic stuff, but you see it all the time.
Yeah.
You know, that's the stuff that I love to see the most.
That's super cool. And anything else? Big snook, jacks, anything else?
Yeah, I've caught some jacks at night, some big ones. You know, 30, 40 pounders. Those are cool too. I want to start doing that more. I definitely want to start doing that more. Snook, you know, everyone loves snook. You know, you can't argue with snook, you know. But I feel like a hater because snook don't really get my blood pumping.
Yeah.
They don't. I don't know what it is. You know, not that I hate the fish. I mean, I love eating snook. Snook is delicious. You know, snook season opens up, you know, tarpon aren't biting. Okay, I'm going to try to get a slot. But other than that, you know, I've caught a lot of nice snook, but it's not something that that really gets the blood pumping. You know, a nice triple digit tarpon that on a jig will get me going, or you know, black tip, of course, on top water. That's also fun too.
So what do you do for work that you have so much time to fish?
I work for Ray Rozier.
Right on.
Yeah.
Right on. What do you do for Ray?
I work for his tackle company.
Okay. Awesome.
R&R Tackle.
Nice.
Yeah.
And what do you do there?
So R&R Tackle is a fishing manufacturer and a brand and a distributor.
Uh-huh.
So I pretty much I do a little bit of everything there. You know, we 3D print and make and prepare boat products, offshore fishing boat products, like bait tubes, bucket tubes. You know, whenever we come out with new lures, we make all the prototypes there. So we'll pour all the tails there. We'll you know, airbrush them. You know, and then we send them out. So I make a lot of the prototypes there too. And then you know, I'll take care of some of the stores. We have stores, obviously, retail stores that we distribute to. So I'll pull the orders, and I kind of do a little bit of everything there. So you know, it's cool.
Yeah, sounds like you're busy. So tell me about the 3D printing. Is that going to be like, you see that as a big future in the fishing business, like 3D printing lures and 3D printing other things? Like, I never really thought about that much. You could do that. Like 3D printing is probably going to revolutionize a lot of things, and eventually we're probably going to have some 3D printers. Just, you know, like you have a regular printer at your house, you could probably 3D print all kinds of plastic things. And I would imagine that you're going to sell a lure. You sell the plans for a lure, and then you just download it and print it at your house. I mean, I guess. Yeah. I don't know. What is your experience with it? It's interesting because I never really thought about that in the fishing business, but you say you're already doing that.
Yeah. So you know, it's really interesting. I don't deal with any of that. The printers or the designing. It's actually a friend of mine that I've known for a while. He's the one who designs the lures. And he does all the designing on the software, and it's cool where he just creates it and then just shoots it up to the printers, prints out the master, or you know, something that we want to try out. And we get to see the first everything. We get to test everything.
So when he's printing that though, like that lure, is that like, I mean, when you pick that lure up, is that like a lure that you would, like a finished product lure kind of thing? Like, is it printed on in the same type of plastic that you would see, you know, or would that plastic, would it be like a prototype kind of thing, and then the plastic would be different if it was molded, or I don't know.
Yeah, so pretty much there's a master. So the master is pretty much the you know, obviously the lure. Yeah. It's just plastic.
Then you'll make a mold out of that, right?
Yeah, and then you get the Then you get the silicone, you pour it over, and that's when you make the mold.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get the mold, then you can pour the plastic, and then you get the soft, the tail.
Yeah, right.
The tail. So this is a new product we came out with. It's a slide bait.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's a slide bait. It's a screw lock. So pretty much you put the your leader through, and it's got the little pocket right in there.
Uh-huh.
And then you just screw lock it into the tail, and you're ready to go.
Where's the hook go?
The hook sits. I'll show you right there. It sits right in that little pocket. Right
okay.
There.
Oh, okay. I gotcha.
Yeah. So
the line goes through the head of that. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I got a hook right here. This is a mustad hook.
And then if you hook a tarpon with that, is the jig head going to slide up the line and you just tight to the.
That's it right there.
Yeah, and so so when you hook when you hook up, the hook comes out.
The hook comes out, so it'll just slide right out. Also, while you're fighting the fish, the weight,
mm-hmm.
the lure will just slide up, and you have all the control with just the hook.
You think that the hook or the bite to land ratio goes up significantly like that?
The land ratio, I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. Besides me slacking off and not paying attention, I never lost a fish on a slide bait. I've never lost a fish. I highly recommend a slide bait. You land more fish. The fish doesn't have the advantage of spitting it out because the weight it distributes up the line.
Right. Have you tried a circle hook with that? You ever try a circle?
Oh yeah,
hook?
yeah.
That works good.
Yeah, you can. You can't set it as.
Well, it's a little different set, but I mean, man, that seems super deadly with a circle hook.
Yeah, definitely works. You can get creative with this. You can use any of your preferences when it comes to hooks. As long as the eye fits in there and you don't tie a ridiculously huge knot,
right?
It'll fit just in there. And
what knot do you like to tie on that, or what like when Ray's looking at that and all you guys are trying to figure out like what's the best rig here? What knot do you like to tie? A loop knot or straight down to the snug down to the eye knot that works the best with that? I'll tie
on a uni knot. It'll sit right on top of the eye. Just if it's
and you'll pull that right down to the hook.
Yep, I'll just tie it. I'll tie it, pull it right through, and that's it. It sits on there perfect, And then once
that's cool. Are people using that for other things besides snook and tarpon?
Yeah. They'll throw it. I mean, I went out the other day. We were testing these. These aren't even out yet. We were testing these things out. We hooked up to a huge jack. I lost one. My friend landed one. And the cool thing is that the tails don't rip off. You can catch about 20 fish on this lure.
Really?
It's not gonna break because the lure is sliding up.
Okay.
It's not like a regular swim bait, a regular jig head swim bait where it's just stuck in the fish's mouth and it's ripping.
Yeah.
So you're saving money and you can reuse this a bunch of times.
That's cool.
But a lot of people are using this for cobia. Ray was throwing this off his charter boats. And they were catching fish on it. So, there's really nothing bad to say about this lure.
That's cool. And that starts from the 3D printer? Like you saw that whole thing kind of develop from a 3D printer? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's so cool. And it's not just the lures. It's also, a lot of the boat products. Any boat products. And kind of back to what you were saying, we kind of got off topic. Like 3D printing is going to be it's going to be big. It's going to get bigger, especially in the fishing industry. You're going to see a lot of crazy things.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
I would imagine. I've seen people 3D print houses. There's like this company that takes these 3D printers and they have these big arms. And they have a 3D printer on the end of these arms, and they can move the 3D printer all around, and they'll have two of these, and they go on site, and they'll start printing these houses, and they're like, kind of tiny houses kind of thing, but they print it right there. It's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's crazy. Yeah, the houses is I don't know, man. Is it hurricane proof?
Well, I think so, because one of the things also that this same company was building is they were building a wing for a jet and they figured out how to do it with like a geometric design that was stronger than it was really, really strong, like stronger than a conventional airplane wing. So,
And that was 3D printed too.
yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I guess, there's some things that you could do, I guess, that would be impossible to do with just conventional, I don't know, conventional tactics, right? Like if you could have if you think about like geodesic domes and different things like that, like you can create a really, really incredibly strong structure, but I don't know that you could pour that structure, or that you could build that structure out of wood, or you could build that structure even welding that structure might be difficult, but like it comes out of a CAD drawing and then it can be printed and it turns out to be incredibly strong. So I don't know. They're probably not made for hurricanes.
And for an airplane, I don't know if I could trust that.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're right. I guess it depends on what it's made out of. It hasn't taken off yet in a lot of ways,
good.
but they are capable of doing this, and it's pretty interesting what they're doing. But I would imagine that a 3D printer, one of the things I would think it would be doing is making it incredibly cheaper to come up with your first prototype than it's ever been before, right? Like if you're drawing something on the computer and then you can 3D print it just right at your facility, and you have kind of an idea. Okay, well this might work, and then you might go into the. I mean, how many countless millions of designs do you think looked really great in the drawing, and then they make a mold out of the thing, and they're like, this is a disaster.
I think that's like I wouldn't say a daily thing for us, but it's a consistent thing. It's funny because my coworker, he'll be working on something, and we're just looking at the computer like, wow, man, that looks great. Wow. And then he's like, yeah, I'm gonna print it out. Print it out. And we'll stay late sometimes, or we'll come in early the next day just to see the finished product, and we'll look at it, and it's just like, yeah, that didn't come out like we thought it would.
Yeah, but you didn't invest a tremendous amount of money or a tremendous amount of time into it, so it opens you up to more experimentation, and that's where the innovation comes from. Because if it's so expensive and so time consuming to try to innovate, then you won't innovate. But if you can make it to where it's like, maybe it costs $100 to do that. That's not like 100,000, And if it's costing that much to do things, then you're not going to do things very often.
Yeah, it's definitely cheap. It's definitely cheap when it comes to trying to make prototypes. And that's a good factor. And when having so many, we have quite a few 3D printers, so that's a big factor. But you get better and better at it every time.
Nice. So do you think the direction of that business right now is more towards the lures or the boat products, or where's the vision for Ray's company right now?
I'd say both for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Both for sure. 100%. Yeah, the lures and the boat products, we want to make the best quality and efficient products for fishermen.
Gotcha.
Offshore and inshore.
Nice. So what about you for this upcoming season? Now as you're kind of, there's a lot of tarpon around. So what do you have any kind of goals for this spring, this going into the summer? Like anything that you want to do that you haven't done yet? You said you wanted to spend a little more time on the sharks. Do you have any kind of goals or anything that you're working towards there?
Yeah, I definitely have been working more towards the sharks for sure. I definitely want to get into trying to catch a big tiger or hammer from shore, from the beach. The tarpon is like, once it hits February, first week of February, I'm already itching for a tarpon. Even now I still am. I've been out there 3 times last week, maybe 4 times. It's just it's been so windy. It's been so hard, but me trying to keep my patience, it's like they're here, and then when you do hook one, It's just you don't get the best hook set because of the slack in your line.
Mm-hmm.
That's the worst.
You find that's the most challenging condition, the high wind and rough. When you're trying to do this type of fishing, would that be worse than like a cold front coming through? I mean, obviously, when a cold front comes through, it's often windy and rough also, but you get the temperature that drops. But I mean, what do you think the most challenging kind of conditions are for you when you're fishing the jetties?
Yeah, the toughest I'd say wind for sure. That's a killer. That's a killer out there.
Will the fish bite for you? But it's just tough and rough and dangerous.
It's super dangerous. The fish do bite. They do. Not as much as a good windy night. I like wind, not 25, 30 mile an hour winds.
Mm-hmm.
Hitting from the east. That'll scare you for sure. I've been knocked off my feet a couple times. I had a concussion before the year ended.
Dang.
Yeah, I landed 100. Probably say maybe 120. If I'm guessing. And I was turning him over to release him, and wave came and I hit my head on the rock.
Oh,
next
man.
Next day I could barely remember anything. So it's those are wake up calls for sure.
Yeah. And so those are the toughest conditions. What would you consider the best conditions? Paint me a picture of the most perfect conditions that would just get you so excited about going out there.
Obviously everyone has their preference. My preference and my personal experience, I'd say a small moon, 13 mile an hour winds, blowing at least east, northeast, like a northeast wind. That's a solid wind, and on a incoming tide for sure.
Interesting.
Yes, outgoing tides. I was telling my friend the other day that if the outgoing was really slow, then the incoming is gonna be slow, and it's not gonna be good. So if you have a strong outgoing, you're gonna have a good incoming.
As far as the bite goes, or as far as the current goes?
No, the both.
Okay.
Both for sure.
All right.
Both current and the bite.
Okay.
Because you'll have an idea where the fish is gonna sit.
Okay.
And usually when both tides are strong, the fish are just gonna stay in one spot. So that means the fish is staying in one spot for 12 hours.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So if it's a strong outgoing, the fish sits on that one spot. It's gonna switch. Tide's gonna switch. They're gonna sit on that one spot, whether it's 10 feet forward, left, straight, back. They're gonna still sit in that same spot.
Yeah.
I've seen it happen firsthand. So.
And then when you have a weak current, they just tend to go wherever. You don't know where they're going.
Yeah,
right.
Those are a little frustrating, because you're really like blind casting.
Mm-hmm.
At least if it's a strong current, you have an idea of where they're sitting.
Right. So do you ever fish out of a boat?
No.
No, because you don't want to, or don't have the opportunity to, or what?
I'd say it's more I don't have the opportunity to.
Right.
And it's not so much that I don't want to. I test myself more. I challenge myself more when it's surf casting.
Yeah.
That's more of a challenge for me. That's more like a thrill for me. Even if I land 2 fish a year,
Right.
That's more like I figured it out. I went that night. I figured it out. Got what I wanted, and I left.
Mm-hmm.
But the boat, I think I've caught maybe one tarpon on a boat.
Yeah. Wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
I just kind of wonder if you started fishing out of a boat, if you wouldn't just reap the benefits of all the things that you've learned from fishing off land successfully. Because I'm sure that you learn a ton of things that people in a boat just run right over the fish and they don't even know they're there, or don't I don't know, maybe it's too close to the boat ramp, and you put the boat in and you take off, and a lot of people do that. A lot of people just take off and they run over all of the, some of the best fishing there is within 30 seconds of the boat ramp, right? Or 30 seconds from the marina, or 5 minutes from 1 mile from the marina. But you're going to, you feel like you get in the boat, you're going to take off, you're going to go 20 miles and you're going to go someplace where nobody else has been. And I just wonder, if you started fishing out of a boat, I bet you would be pretty pleasantly surprised about how some of that knowledge would transfer over to fishing, from what you've learned into the boat. But not all of it, because a boat's the same way. You got to figure it all out. You run 20 miles to a place that nobody ever fishes. It seems like, man, if I could just get over there, the fishing would be so easy. Well, maybe. You got to know where to put the boat. You got to know how to approach the spot. You got to know all these different things. It's just, it's just the same, and it takes just as much time to figure out, I think, as what you've been able to do. But just a different approach. It's just different approach. But I think that a lot of boat fishermen and captains would be surprised at your knowledge, and then you might be surprised at what they know and what they also are doing daily. And I don't think. I mean, that's what. What?
That the boat. I didn't mean to cut you off. That the boat, because a lot of the spots that I'm fishing, they. I think it's funny because, surf casting. It's like it's you're trying to figure it out just as much as someone on a boat.
Sure.
But a lot of the times, the boat, like they're fishing right off the jetty. I mean, that's happening a lot. Like lately, I've noticed that. I had one of the jetties. I'd say about a week and a half ago with a buddy of mine, and we found them. I mean, we straight up found them. I think maybe us screaming might have alarmed some of the boat people, but I definitely have to say that I feel like sometimes they're learning from us.
Sure.
Yeah, because they're coming straight up. This is happening a lot. A lot of these captains, and not to talk down on them, but a lot of them are just coming straight off. I mean, casting distance.
Huh.
Casting
so are
distance.
they, in your opinion, they're right on top of the fish?
Oh yeah, a lot. I mean, this is happening a lot.
Huh.
Like a lot. They're like, oh yeah, jump on the boat with us. We know where to go, and it's like they're maybe it is efficient because you're bouncing from spot to spot faster, but a lot of times they're running straight to the jetty.
Huh.
They're running straight to the jetty.
Yeah.
And there'll be 3-4 boats right on the jetty, and they're in casting distance of where we're at.
What do you think that etiquette should be there, in your opinion? Like as a surf fisherman, what do you think that the etiquette should be as a boat person? You're pulling in there with your boat. You see somebody fishing on the jetty. Like, I don't know. I think a lot of boat people might think, fishing on land, I can do whatever I want, But you're a fisherman, just like they're a fisherman. And if you were in a boat, they wouldn't be pulling right up to you like that. I just wonder, and I think it's probably a pretty important point. Like, what, from your perspective, you spend a lot of time out there. What should a boat person do? Like, how much room should they give you? What is proper etiquette?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's so much. There's a lot of lack of respect, in my opinion, when exactly what you were saying. Like, they're on a boat. Oh yeah, we could do whatever we want. Like, that's a problem. You're a fisherman just like we are. Right. It's just a different lifestyle. That's really what it is. Surf casting is a lifestyle, just like people are fishing from the flats on a boat. Like a flats fisherman, that's their lifestyle. Not saying that flats fisherman doesn't like going offshore, but that's more like their lifestyle. Like someone who catches, you like catching bonefish or permit, like that's your lifestyle. Then you have the other lifestyle where it's like offshore fishing, that's their lifestyle. Surf casting it's a lifestyle, and everyone has to respect each other. Even like fly fishing, that's its own lifestyle.
Sure.
We all have to respect each other for what we like to do and our preference of fishing. And I feel like back to what you were saying, the boat, fishing off a boat, how is there even an answer to that? How far are you supposed to be? When we're targeting the same species at the same time of the year,
right,
same area, like I wouldn't know how to answer that, because
I mean, 2 casts away, 3 casts away, like, or put yourself in. I mean, and that's kind of the difficult thing is like, if all you ever do is fish out of a boat, then you can put yourself in the other person's shoes and be like, well, if I was over there, I wouldn't want them coming this close because I know where the fish are and they come right through here. But maybe that person, there are a lot of people that fish on boats that have never surf casted, that have never gone. And then you have other people that start surf casting or bridge fishing or whatever, and they're like, one day I'm going to get a boat, and they do get a boat. And then they understand what the people on the bridge are doing, and they understand what the people on the jetties are doing, but that's because they've worked their way up through that.
Yeah.
But not everyone does. And so I don't know. I think it might be, if you don't want people running you over, or coming too close, it might be good to, talk about like what you feel like a good answer would be. 2 casts away, a couple 100 yards. Like if you're targeting the same fish at the same time, just assume that bridge fisherman or jetty fisherman is a boat. Would you go that close to a boat?
We when I hit the jetty the other night, about a week and a half ago with my friend, we found them. We were on them. We were fishing the beach side for blacktips, and he turns around and he sees 100 plus just in midair busting on mullet, and he goes, dude, there's tarpon right behind you. We turned around, we kept walking down on the rocks, and we were on them. We were throwing top water and the jigs. I mean, I hooked like 100 plus on the popper, and then like 2 other decent sized fish, and then my friend hooked 3 other fish too, and then next thing you know, boat comes right on top of them. It's just going up and down, and bite completely turned off. The fish got quiet immediately. Like immediately. And it's kind of like, it's kind of an oxymoron, because it's like you're trying to target the fish, but you didn't approach it. You didn't even, like, you're hovering, like you're literally hovering over the fish, because all they're trying to do is look at the fish finder.
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't even have to use the fish finder. Why don't you just approach the spot, wait about 10, 15 minutes. Maybe if you see something popping off, or you see some bait, or maybe a tarpon rolling, because I've seen tarpon rolling a billion times at night, which is, it is possible if you have a good enough eye. Maybe if you approached it properly, you'd have more hookups.
Mm-hmm.
As a captain, that's exactly what I would do. There's no way I'd be running over where they might be. There's no way. The fish are going to be there, but they're going to be quiet. They're not going to be biting. That's exactly what happened. These people went right over where they were biting, and then they got quiet. And they were rolling up and down for about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and then they left. And then the bite turned off. So it's like those, even if we are going to be on a boat, at least approach the fish differently, so that way the surf casters and the people who are fishing on a boat can fish, maybe fish the same pod, or, the same species together.
Yeah.
That's a main issue, is approaching it. That would be my answer, if anything.
Yeah. Well, it's good. It's a good topic, and the only way to really to have anything kind of resolved is to actually talk about it, because most people don't, right? They just do whatever they want to do, and I don't know. But if people kind of understand kind of what's going on and why you need to keep a little further away, I think maybe, a lot of people would, a lot of people do something like that because they don't know any better. They think, okay, well, this is where they are. That guy can't cast all the way over here, but they might not realize that you've been walking up and down that jetty all night long, right? Like, I don't know. I think a lot of times when people do something that seems just so stupid, it's not because they really meant to mess you up. It's like they didn't know any better. Like they've never fished off a jetty, or they don't fish for bonefish, or they don't fish for permit. They're trying to make it through this channel, and they just end up burning your whole flat, and you're like, That's so stupid, man. I can't believe
And
that
you know,
guy did
I'm
that.
all for it too. Like being on a boat, I'm all for it. Like I'm not against that at all. Because there's places where you can't go from land and you need a boat. And,
Sure.
and there's places that I would love to fish. If I had the opportunity to, you know, jump on a boat and go up and down, and, you know, places where I know there's fish. But at the same time, it goes back to kind of what you were saying. That, you know, sometimes they don't know any better, or sometimes they just don't care.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, it's one or the other. It's one or the other usually. Chris, how do people find your social media and follow you?
Well, I go by the name of Chris Fishes. So.
Chris Fishers.
On Instagram.
And then you're also on that surf casting. There's another account, right, that you have, or that you?
Yeah. How'd you know about that?
I know a lot of things, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Florida Surfcasters is it's a brand that my friend and I opened up.
Okay. That's a good page too. I follow that.
Yeah. So that's me.
Okay. Was that supposed to be a secret?
No, not really.
Okay.
A handful of people do know. I run the page. But it's a good friend of mine and I who started it together.
Okay.
A while back, and now we're just trying to, you know, just kind of show people that surf casting is a lifestyle, and you know, it's a part of who you are. Yeah. As a surf caster, because, you know, people who surf cast their whole. I mean, look at Alberto. I mean, he's surf casting his whole life. That's a lifestyle that we both appreciate. So, you know, and Alberto loves us too. So we're very appreciated by a lot of people. A lot of people have been doing it for so long. So, you know.
Well, for somebody like Alberto, it's nice to see young blood coming into the sport and being super excited about it, and then being like a, you know, somebody that's going to care for the sport and care for the etiquette and care for the lifestyle. And man, I love Alberto. He is just. I had him on this podcast early, like probably one of my first 50 podcasts, first 30 podcasts probably. He came on and he just told some amazing stories, and he's just so passionate, and so he's just such a cool guy, man. I just really like him. He's a really good guy.
If I have crazy stories, I can't imagine Alberto. I would love to sit down with him one day and just hear him out.
He's got a crazy story. You should go back and listen to that podcast. He told me he died and came back to life.
Oh, wow.
And he goes all through it in the podcast. It's one of the better podcasts I think that I've ever done. And he was all about it, man. He got real emotional, and he just told all kinds of stories, not just about catching big fish and stuff like that, but about this deal and all growing up and all the things. It's fascinating. It was really a great podcast and a great conversation with a really great dude. But same thing happened here, man. I really enjoyed talking to you. I like the idea of the surf casting and what you're doing with it, and you know, the etiquette piece was probably very important and something that I've never really heard many people talk about. So we'll do that again. You think about that, and you have a couple more run-ins with some people, and then we'll get you back on here and we'll talk about how to kind of properly handle different situations, like boats versus surf fishing. That'd be a good, interesting conversation.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I really appreciate you having me on here.
Yeah, man.
You know, I don't. You know, I'm gonna be honest. I don't really watch. And my friend makes fun of me a lot because I don't watch fishing at all. I don't, as much as I should. I don't. But you know, you having your show, it's cool to talk to someone who's out there every day and, you know, doing what they love. So that's what we're all chasing after here. Yeah,
that's right, man. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it, Chris.
Appreciate it, Tom.
All right, man. Thanks, Chris. See ya.